In my 20 years in real estate dealing with appraisers, here's what I've come to know. Appraisers don't care what Zillow says. They don't care what your neighbor's realtor thinks your home is worth. But that one number, the appraisal value, can make or break your deal. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. The appraiser follows a specific set of guidelines when determining value. And honestly, they're very similar to what a real estate agent uses when creating a CMA, or comparative market analysis. And in most cases, those two numbers, the CMA and the appraisal, end up pretty close. But can they be different? Absolutely. Later in this video, I'll explain how that can happen and what to do when they don't match up. And I've got a really good real-world story for you. But first, let's talk about what you should expect from the appraisal process and what appraisers are actually looking for when they walk through your home. First, why do appraisals even happen? They're ordered by the lender, not the buyer or seller. The goal is to protect the lender from loaning more than the home is worth. So even if a buyer offers more, the loan is still going to be based on the appraised value, not the contract price. And no, neither the buyer, the seller, nor even the loan officer gets to choose the appraiser. Appraisers are assigned randomly through something called an appraisal management company. It's a third-party system designed to keep things fair and compliant. So even if you know a great appraiser, they won't be the one who shows up. So what do appraisers look at? They look at three main things. One, comparable sales or comps, homes that sold recently within 3 to 6 months, and usually within a mile of the property. They compare size, layout, features, age, and condition. And then they adjust values up or down. More bedrooms, add value. No basement, subtract. It's part of a formula. Now, the second thing they look at is condition. They are not home inspectors, but they do look at the basics. Roof, windows, HVAC, foundation. Visible damage or deferred maintenance can hurt the value. They also look at major improvements. Finished basement, new kitchen, new roof. If it's permanent and permitted, it helps. But purely cosmetic updates, not so much. So here's the upgrades that help and then some that don't. Upgrades that help: new roof or HVAC, full kitchen or bath remodels, energy efficient windows, finished basement with permits, high quality flooring, added square footage, solid decks and fences if permitted. Upgrades that don't help much: paint, fresh paint. We tell you to do that because it helps you sell the house, but an appraiser supposedly doesn't care about that. Landscaping, smart home tech, designer lighting, custom closets, pools, and hot tubs. Sometimes they'll add a little bit for that, and sometimes it's a negative. Appraisers care about structure, systems, and sales data, not how stylish the home looks. Now, buyers do care about style. Staging and presentation very much matter to them, and that's been proven to bring in better offers, higher offers. But appraisers, they don't get an emotional attachment to a home. That said, they're still human, in my opinion. So I think a well-kept, nicely decorated, clean home creates a more favorable impression. Even if there's not a line item for that on the report, there is a line item for condition. So I think a favorable impression is likely to help with that. Can the appraisal, the CMA, and the offer all be different numbers? Yes, and it happens more often than you'd think. And here's how that can play out. The offer price reflects what a buyer is willing to pay. That can be influenced by emotion, competition, or urgency, especially in a hot market. The CMA, or comparative market analysis, is what your agent puts together using recent sales of similar homes. It's based on local data and trends, but it's still an estimate. The appraisal is what the lender relies on, and it's based on a strict set of guidelines, formulas, and adjustments. In my opinion, sometimes those strict guidelines don't help much with value. Ideally, all three of these numbers are close, but when they're not, things get tricky. Let me give you an example. I had a home under contract for $325,000. The CMA supported that price, and the buyer agreed. In fact, two buyers. We got two offers within just a few days of going on the market, full price. But the appraisal came in at $310,000, $15,000 short. I challenged it. I pulled some really good comps from similar neighborhoods right in Martinsburg, but the appraiser rejected them, saying they were too far. The comps he used, they were less than a mile away, but they weren't comparable in quality or updates or even style in some cases. I even asked him, wouldn't it create a more realistic value to find homes more similar to the subject, even if they were a bit further away? But, he wouldn't budge. So what happened? The buyer contributed $5,000, and the seller reduced the price to $315,000, and we kept the deal alive. The seller had movers scheduled and was kind of in a bind. Can you challenge an appraisal? Yes. Can you convince an appraiser to change the value? Sometimes, but it's rare. They don't like revising their numbers. So with the offer, the CMA, and the appraisal all potentially being different, how do you know if a home is actually priced right? Really, in most cases, the CMA, the comparative market analysis, is the best indicator of where the appraisal is likely to land. That's because a solid CMA uses the same kinds of data appraisers are required to follow, like recent sales, similar homes, properties within a distance, usually within a mile. But here's the dilemma. Sometimes there aren't strong matching comps that close by, especially if you live in a neighborhood where there's not a lot of turnover. So you have a beautifully updated home, but the only recent sales nearby are outdated or just not a good comp. There may be a worse condition. So as an agent, I do reach a little further to get a better feel for what buyers are likely to pay. But appraisers, most of them go by stricter rules. If they can't find close recent comps that truly reflect the home's value, they might have to use lower quality sales, even if better matches exist further out. So, and that often depends on the appraiser. Some are a stickler for going by the guidelines, others not so much. And that's when the numbers start to diverge. So while the CMA is usually the best reflection of the appraisal, there are cases where the appraiser's guidelines limits the comps he pulls. And that can lead to lower values, even when the home clearly deserves more. So in the end, the right price really is the one that balances the buyer's offer, the market data, and the realities of how appraisals work. Understanding how appraisers think can help you avoid surprises and keep your deal together. And here's a little real-world insight. Appraisals are not exact science. Two appraisers can look at the same house and come up with two different numbers. And yes, there are some appraisers who just seem to undervalue everything. We had one in this area who thought every home was overpriced. No one wanted to see his name on the report. Thankfully, I don't think he's around anymore. There were a lot of complaints against him. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I put a lot of thought into it because I think it's an important thing to understand, because an appraisal can make or break a deal. Okay. I appreciate you tuning in. And if you've got any questions, call me. I'd love to help you out. All right. Have a great week. Bye.